welcome to my new podcast channel, Bunny Hugs Mental Health. Now, if you don't know, Bunny Hugs Mental Health podcast has been out for about 2.5 years on audio version. And so I'm going to be releasing some videos from 2.5 years ago up to present day. Maybe not all of them, because not all of them were recorded on video. And the ones that were recorded on video, the quality isn't awesome, but it's okay. The conversation is awesome, though, because I never really meant for this to be on YouTube, but I thought, you know what? Why not? So there's going to be newer episodes coming up too. That the production will be better because I've grown as a person and as an interviewer. So I got some better gear, and yeah, those ones were meant to be on YouTube. So watch for those. This episode is an older one. It's from January 23, episode 77 of the audio version of the podcast, and it's with Amy Over. And she is a Columbine High School shooting survivor. And we talk about how her mental health is still affected to this day from that event. And we talk about her podcast that she had, Confronting Columbine. It was a series. It's over now, but it's still out there and it's still relevant and it's still great. And she talks to all types of survivors and police officers that were there and stuff. And it's just, it's really, really, really good. I binged listened to it. But anywho, it's very exciting that this is now on YouTube. I can't wait to post more and more and more. So be sure to subscribe and hit that bell, I've been told to say. And yeah, so without further ado, I give you Amy Over. Thank you for agreeing to speak with me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. And, I think with the work that you're doing is really powerful.
Well, thank you. And same. Your podcast was amazing.
Thanks. It was heavy.
Yeah. Like I said, I binged it, but it was so heavy. Maybe it was one of those things I shouldn't have binged.
Yeah. I've gotten that a lot. And with Glass Entertainment Group, one of like the biggest kind of like critiques we got was because it was so heavy. Mm. So, I mean, it's definitely like producing it. I helped produce it, and there were days that I literally went into my room after recording and curled up in a ball and was not well. So
yeah, I can imagine. So I mean, I talk about heavy stuff all the time on the podcast, but I didn't go through it. Like I went through my own stuff, but I'm interviewing people that are, we had separate journeys where you were talking with people that were on the same journey as you. And so, it would be pretty triggering at times. And
yeah, really triggering. And then, finding out that I was on, sorry, my dog is being so annoying right now. Ashley, stop. She opens doors. So yeah, let me go close the doors because she wants to be with me. Yeah. Confronting Columbine was, it was 1.5 years in the making, and really, I got to produce it and help facilitate like the direction that it was going in. I didn't want it to be about the perpetrators at all. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to be focused on the investigation and other people's journeys and what they're going through. Mm-hmm. Because, this is a lifelong process. When you have trauma, it's a lifelong, process that you navigate through. And everyone's on their own steps and their own time, and we've got to figure that out. So that's why I'm a huge advocate for mental health and survivor mentality.
Yeah, it was really fascinating speaking to the different facets from some of the kids that were there to some of the people that, like your coach's daughter, your coach Dave who passed away, to his family, to investigators that came in later. Like it was really well done. You got to get kind of a lot of perspectives of this mass tragedy.
I got to, it's been almost 24 years since Columbine happened, and I got to, some things are kind of blurry. So I got to really figure out if I was on the hit list or not. And, you know, because things are like super blurry when you're going through something traumatic like that. And I never really wanted to know. But then, you know, once diving into the production and stuff, I'm like, well, let's, you know, and talking to Kate Batten, the lead investigator, I'm like, you know, I guess I do want to know if I'm on this hit list. And it helped me kind of heal. And then on top of that, I got to meet this wonderful man that let me into his house, you know, the day of the shooting. And I never like got to meet him. And I finally got to meet him. And that was something that like kind of was closure for me that I didn't know that I needed 23 years later, but I did.
Right. Because you were in the graduating class. So after the shooting, that was your last day of school there. You never ever went back. So that would be...
No, we went to Chatfield High School and finished out like after the funerals. We had our some of our special senior things we got to do at Chatfield and got to finish up some of our classes and stuff. But like it was really an odd time because, you know, we were all in shock. And we were, you know, basically sitting around in groups of, you know, like they were trying to like, it was like cat herding. They were trying to like figure out what the hell to do with us, because none of us could obviously focus on doing any curriculum or any work. So it was literally just us sitting around and kind of navigating through feelings and not talking. Some were talking, a lot of crying, a lot of, you know, I don't know, like media jumping out of bushes, and it was a really bizarre, weird time in my life. Yeah,
but then never really getting that closure because you never went back to Columbine at all, whereas other classes below you actually got to go back and kind of deal with it all, and you got to kind of got some closure and got to move on, whereas like your last day of school at Columbine was that day. And I have mixed feelings about whether I would have wanted to go back.
I mean, just knowing Columbine and what a wonderful community it is, I think I would have wanted to go back because I would have had that support system. I mean, it was not pretty. My I don't know, my freshman year in college and like a couple years after that were really nasty and ugly, and a lot of addiction, a lot of coping with alcohol, blacking out, just, you know, trying to numb the pain. That was what I was trying to do. And I wasn't ready to go to therapy yet. And, you know, and that's normal, you know, when you go through something like this, but it wasn't until I met my husband and, you know, a couple years later where I was like, okay, I need help, you know, and that's when I started my path to healing.
Yeah. The interesting thing I noticed was one, your mother wasn't exactly, she wasn't not supportive, but she wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? She wasn't as supportive as other parents, perhaps. And I don't know if that was just ignorance or just her way of coping. And then the other thing is I noticed about the trauma was when you spoke with other people that were there and how later in life they, like, it just followed them all through life between broken marriages, addiction. Even one student took his own life. And it's like, it's not, you don't get over it in 2 weeks. It's taken people 20 years.
And still, I mean, I still have survivors that are coming to me and how do I get help or you know, an interesting thing is once a lot of my peers became parents and their kids start going to school, they really are struggling with, you know, that safety aspect and that safety, you know, like how do I navigate my kids going to school and my feelings of them going to school, and do I homeschool or what, you know, it's just a lifelong, it's going to be something that like I can't beat myself up about. Like I was in a shooting and it's something that like is going to follow me for the rest of my life. And I've got to be okay with that. And I'm going to have hard days. I'm going to have days where, you know, I can't get out of bed. And there's days that I'm okay. And I'm, you know, figuring stuff out. But I still have triggers in my life, like fireworks, and a car backfiring will like literally drop me to the ground. And those are like quirky, weird things that like I just, as a shooting survivor, have to kind of deal with. And I recognize that. But it's hard when I have a lot of my peers. I do know a lot of peers that haven't even talked about Columbine and aren't even getting help. But maybe that's the way that they're coping, and that's okay for them. For me, I had to be vocal about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too with my stuff.
Yeah, I had to be vocal. I had to, tell people that, hey, it's going to be okay. And it's okay to ask for help, and here are the meds that I'm on. And here, I think it's great that you really, you talk about the medication side of it. I mean, there were so many years that I was embarrassed that I was on medication, and embarrassed that, I was just, almost ashamed, that like I couldn't do this on my own. Mm-hmm. I had to have help. But now I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, man, if I'm off my meds, holy shnikes, like watch out. Like I am not.
You can swear.
I'm like, holy shit, like watch out. Like I am not normal. And I'm okay with that now. But it also comes with like wisdom and growing older. And, I'm definitely, I'm in my 40s now, and I just have a different perspective on life now.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely appreciate life.
Yeah, I'm 45, and it's been a journey, man. And like I feel like this is the most stable I've been, and it's just been like a month that I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I've been working on myself, like in and out of. Oh man, it's been almost 2 decades of messing around.
You're on your own journey.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, because I'm assuming there's people from Columbine that have their own journey, and then add on top of that they were in a traumatic school shooting. Like, talk about complex. Goddamn, lives are crazy, man. Brains are crazy.
Dumb. It is, but like trauma's trauma. And like I used to work for the Rebels Project. It's a nonprofit organization that helps connect survivors of mass shootings. I just actually stepped down from their director of fundraising this year. But they're doing great work. And like, I'm hoping to do more work with like, survivors, but I'm going to go out on my own. And do my own thing. I'm starting a company called Survivor's Path. We're going to go and public speak and talk about trauma and have those like really hard, in-depth conversations about what it's like to struggle and to persevere and to get through it all, because, whether you've gone through a mass shooting or not, like everyone's got shit. Everyone's got trauma. Like, I don't care what family, like dynamics the people come from. Like, I had trauma even as a young child, with my dad being sick and stuff growing up. And I have like weird family dynamics, and, went through a lot of death and growing up. A lot of people around me died. And so, I think I have like a weird, I don't know. I have trauma too, like on top of, that complexity of like a mass shooting. I'm like, I'm always in the wrong place at the wrong time, my mom would say. I'm like, I can't help it, but I'm always in the wrong place at the wrong time.
It's true though. Everybody does have trauma, and you can't compare trauma. I mean, if one person was in a school shooting and that's the most traumatic thing they've ever been in their life, and other people, their goldfish died, that's the most traumatic thing that happened to them in their life. It's still trauma to them because they've had a sheltered life, whatever. This is still a trauma.
Well, they saw something on TV that was traumatizing. I mean, it's just, I think the hardest part, like for me, was my mom, like discrediting like my trauma. She was like, and she passed away a year and a half ago. And, I'm still like grieving and coming to terms with that. But she at one point told me to get over it because I wasn't physically wounded. I wasn't shot. I was shot at, but I wasn't shot. And she told me to fucking get over it. And that wrecked me,
That's a trauma of its own.
Yeah, that just wrecked me, where I was like, man, like, you're my mom. And you're telling me, like, I need you to be loving and supportive. Like, I have 4 kids. I would never tell my kid to get over something. I mean, I don't know. It's just as a mother myself, I mean, just those harsh words, and that's something that I'm working through with my therapist and, trying to come to terms with. Now my dad has been like really supportive. He's a Vietnam veteran. He's been like really supportive in my life.
Your stepdad, right?
No, my real dad.
Oh,
yes.
I got your story confused. I thought your real dad passed.
No, my mom just passed.
Okay, but I thought when you were younger, your dad passed, but he was sick.
He's sick, yeah.
I listen to too many podcasts, you know what I mean? I get muddled up.
So I kept my dad, I'm really protective of my dad, and I kept him out of the podcast for various reasons. But he's a Vietnam vet and just a stand-up dude. Like, he's always like coached all my basketball, and he was just there. He's always been there. But after the shooting, I think from being in Vietnam and his trauma, it was too much. Like,
right.
I don't think he could handle it. And we talk about it in bits and pieces now, and he brings me into that war zone, he'll put himself and me into that war zone. And I've kind of been like really protective of his mental health. And that's why I didn't bring him in. I didn't bring him into it. So, but my dad lives like 5 minutes away from me. We're homies. We hang out. We have lunch every week. Like, he's like my biggest advocate and my biggest supporter. So, he couldn't hang. He couldn't handle it when I went through the shooting.
That's fair.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's unfair, but it's fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you did the podcast, was that the 20-year anniversary?
Yeah.
It was. Okay.
Yeah. It was about the 20-year anniversary. So, and they're talking about doing some stuff for the 25th anniversary. I don't know if I'll do anything with Glass Entertainment Group, but, yeah, it was big shoes to fill because, the first Confronting Columbine was confronting O.J. Simpson. And then they asked me to do it, and I'm like a freaking nobody, like the other lady was, Ron Goldman's sister. So she was like already in the spotlight and stuff. And so they brought me in, and a lot of people were like, who the hell is this chick? Like, why is she, who's Amy over? And, I really I'm proud of the work I did with Confronting Columbine. I'm very proud of it. I didn't have a lot of support with my peers.
Really?
I had mixed reviews, and which is totally understandable. I mean, why me? Why did I get to do it?
Why you? Did someone?
I hope I did justice. What now?
Sorry. Yes, I think you did do it justice. But so why was it you? Was it your idea, or did someone approach you?
Glass Entertainment approached me. So they saw something I did on CBS and CBS Good Morning America. They had asked, I think, another girl to do Confronting Columbine, and she declined. And then I think I was number 2 on the list. So they asked me, and I was really hesitant at first, but when I work with mass shooting survivors with the Rebels Project, I think they don't like to be in the spotlight like that. So I think it was like really, shocking for them to support that I did this. So that I did the, Confronting Columbine. But I had some support like with my peers, but it was a mixed bag. Some people were like, Amy, you did a great job, or Amy, I can't listen to it. It's too hard, like, and I respect that. And I totally respect that, and
Right.
maybe someday they'll listen to it, because it isn't all about, it's not about the perpetrators. It's not about that. It's about Greg Barnes live, and it's about, really getting to the nitty gritty of what the investigation was about, and then, bits and pieces of stories of, Zach and Zach. And, they were huge advocates and like big supporters of me. But, it was hard. A lot of people just said, I straight can't listen to it. It's too much.
So, that's fair. Like, if it's triggering, that makes sense. But it definitely wasn't like, there was no exploitation. Like there was no, like
no, I made sure.
Yeah. Like even when I'm doing this podcast, it's like, I worry people think I'm just exploiting people with traumas and stuff. And it's like, because sometimes I seek out higher profile people and stuff. And it's like, but that's, yeah. Listening to it, I could definitely tell what your intentions were. It wasn't anything to do with exploiting and making money or whatever it was. But
at first they wanted it to go in like the Marilyn Manson direction. To be honest with you, they wanted it to go in that direction.
Right. Okay. Because you were like, you squashed that in the podcast. Like there was all types of stigmas, no, rumors and things that you hear about. Yeah. The shooters and
we squash all that because that's not what Columbine's about.
Yeah.
And I mean,
like the trench coat army or whatever the hell they're called.
Yeah, they were freaking trench coats at school. It was weird, but they weren't like this mafia, like a mob, that.
Yeah. And the shooters weren't even in that, were they?
No, they weren't even. They wore trench coats that day. They wore trench coats, but they weren't. I mean, they were like any other group at Columbine. You had your jocks, you had your potheads, you had your just like any American high school. Yeah. Except we had these dudes that wore trench coats sometimes, but it wasn't like they all got together and had this like mob. So, and it wasn't because of, the shooting didn't happen because of freaking,
Marilyn Manson
and music and video games. And, it was, their parents fucked up too, it was like, you need to know what your kids are doing. How do you not know your kids are building pipe bombs? So how do you not know that shit? I don't know. There's so many factors to it and stuff. But Columbine was a great school, is a great school. It's an amazing community. I still am involved in the community, and I think I will always be.
Mm-hmm. I understand why it's kind of there's a couple of reasons why it's so people are fascinated with it. One, no, it wasn't the first school shooting, but it was the first major one, the first one where like media, and it's like it was a zoo. The second, it was like there was two shooters. Like how the hell do these two guys find each other and do that together? Like what are the odds of that happening? So it was double bizarre, and now it's like just a common thing.
And then it was supposed to be a bombing. It wasn't supposed to be a mass shooting. It was supposed to be a bombing. Yeah. They had bombs all over the school, and how they articulated that, how they masterminded that is fascinating in its own, like it's sickening. It's just like, how did they get away with all of this? Yeah. It's just, and then they had lists and they got together, and they were both crazy. Like how do you find two crazies that go and do something to this magnitude? It still baffles me.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
It's baffling how these two guys found each other and one, like, people get together and do stuff all the time, but always one backs down or one tells somebody or what, or that means there's, instead of 2 parents, there's 4 parents to catch, and none of them caught. Like, it was just so bizarre how it all spanned out like that.
It is. But I mean, it's just crazy that like we're still 24 years later. Now mass shootings are a part of our society, and it's. I always get asked the question, like, how do we stop this? What do we do? And I think a lot of it, and 99.9% of it, boils down to mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can get into the gun stuff, but I try to stay away from that. But like,
I noticed that
a lot of it's mental health, and how do we get to these kids before they get access to a weapon? How do we get to them? How do we, I know we have systems in place, but like, I mean, I'm not going to lie, as a parent, I'm scared shitless that my kids are going to go through what I went through.
Yeah. And even in the Rebel, I'm sorry, I forget what it's called.
The Rebels Project. Yeah,
the Rebels Project. You were talking to one of your team members, and she had a family member. Well, so she was she had a family member in a shooting. Then she also had a family member that was a shooter.
Yes.
So,
like, how does that, like, what do you do with those dynamics?
Yeah, and like, how often does that occur that you're able to be on both? Like, that's a lot of shootings to be around, to be on both sides of it.
I know a survivor in Paducah, Kentucky, who they were in the Paducah shooting in 1997. Then their kid was in the other shooting in Kentucky years later, like a couple years ago.
God.
So, I mean, literally, it's like generational mass shooting survivors.
That's incredible.
It's heartbreaking.
I don't know if you know, but I'm in Canada.
You're in Canada?
Yeah. So
I kind of got the gist you were in Canada. What part are you in?
I'm in Saskatchewan.
You are cool.
Yeah,
that's
the
awesome.
Kentucky of Canada.
That's awesome. Oh, that's funny. I'm from Seattle, so yeah,
right. Close to BC and Vancouver.
I was close to BC. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, we do have school shootings here. I think the last school shooting in Canada was actually in Saskatchewan, and there was a few people that were shot. But it is very, very rare. Yeah.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think it is so rare in Canada? Do you think it's because do you guys have a lot like good mental? You guys have a good mental health system, right?
Well, I'll say no. I don't know. I mean, I can't compare it to the States, but I mean, that's part of my advocating. How like 6 years ago I started advocating was because the mental health system was so terrible in my province. Anyway, every province is different, but we still have people going to the hospital asking for help, and then they're getting pushed away and then dying, taking their lives hours later.
Yeah. But is your mental health, do you guys get it covered? Is it covered? It is.
Yeah.
See, ours is not.
I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, it's both. You can go private or have it covered. Okay. And the private ones, you kind of get what you pay for sometimes, and the health region will pay for it, but you might have to travel for it, and they're maybe not the best, fanciest offices and stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the same with us. I mean, you can have your private, I go to a private psychiatrist and stuff. But definitely like with my health insurance, I could go to see a mental health care provider, and I would have a copay or whatnot. But those ones I've found to not be very helpful. So right. I've kind of bite the bullet, no pun intended.
Oh my God.
But I bite the bullet and I pay out of pocket, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately I can't. So I have mental health issues, so I can't work full time. So then I can't make the money to go and pay for good mental health providers, but so I'm getting better. I've found a nice balance in my life the last year or so, but anyway,
Good
Not
for
about
you.
me. Yeah, thank you. But I think one of the reasons why there's less in Canada, I don't know, there is a huge cultural difference between Americans and Canadians. It's subtle, but it's also huge. And one of it is guns. We have lots of guns, but we don't have, like handguns are illegal. And I don't know if you can get like the AR-5s or whatever they're called, or AR-15s, or I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't
Bowling
either.
for Columbine. Have you seen Bowling for Columbine?
I actually haven't.
Oh, okay.
I haven't. I know of it. But I haven't. It's really hard for me. Like I read Dave Cullen's book, and then I also watched Sue Klebold's one of her episodes, and I actually read her book as well when I was doing the podcast stuff. And I had to read it with my therapist, so it's really tough for me to like dive into that. But it's on the list of things for me to eventually watch.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot more than just Columbine. It's the movie, but in there, I can't think of the movie guy, Michael. I can't think of the director. Doesn't matter.
Think of his. Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about, though.
But he kind of goes through stats of like American shootings compared to other countries in the world, and it is just so much higher. And I don't know what. I don't know. There's no one single answer, right? It's a complex, like anything else.
It's a gun issue. It's a mental health issue. It's everything, and everything involved. And you know what I found doing the podcast was that it's a young male issue.
Right.
Which I thought to be fascinating when I talked to some of, the psychologists on there, that it's a young man issue. And I thought that was like fascinating. But you have ones that break out of the mold, like the Vegas shooting was by an older man. But typically it's like young males. So that's like really disturbing. I'm raising two young men, I'd like to think that I know their mental health and what they're doing and what they're up to. But it's scary. It's scary. It's kind of scary living here.
Yeah. And
I live in suburbia, Parker, Colorado. It's like beautiful. But it wouldn't surprise me if a mass shooting happened.
I mean, just the other day you had one in a gay bar again in Colorado.
Why in Colorado? Why are we having we're known for mass shootings and weed? Like, why?
Yeah.
This is a happy state, and a lot of athletic, there's always something going on in Colorado. And that's what I love about Colorado, is that there's always something fun to do, and there's sporting events. And it's a great place to raise a family, but we have these horrific tragedies that are happening all around us. And we've got to figure out what's going on here, what's in the water.
Yeah. And it's visually a beautiful state. I don't know.
It's gorgeous here. I wouldn't raise my family anywhere else. But I'm scared that something's going to happen. But I've got to keep on keeping on, try to advocate for mental health. I've got to try to, get my story out and hopefully help people. That's my goal, is to help.
How heartbreaking was it talking to some of the Parkland survivors? Because that was a whole other one too. It seems like Columbine and that one are kind of the real main.
Yeah.
I guess what's the other one too? The elementary school.
Sandy Hook.
Yeah, I guess those three are kind of the main ones you hear about. But it was tough working with, I actually went after, so working with the Parkland community, I've worked with quite a bit, and it's tough. It's really tough. And especially talking with the teachers and the staff and how they were treated afterwards. And, there's a lot of dynamics there, but
one thing that like really just broke my soul was I went to an event at Columbine High School, and I got to work with some of the Parkland kiddos. And we ended up walking to the park after we spoke about our journeys to them, and just kind of told them to hang on and hold on, and everything's going to be okay. And we're here to help. And once I worked at the park with them, I had this one teenage girl come up to me, and she just grabbed me and held me. And she goes, "Am I going to be okay? I'm so angry." And she goes, "You talked about your anger and how angry you were. And I feel so much rage." And like, then she just cried. And I just held her, and we talked, and she said, "I'm so mad at my mom." I felt like I was looking in at myself, like when I was looking at this little girl, you know. I mean, she was 18 years old, about the same age as me. I was 18 when I went through mine. And I felt, I could empathize with her, that, you know, like the anger piece and not feeling supported and not feeling, and I've been thinking about this girl, and I don't know her name, and I just wonder if she's okay. But like, that will stick to me forever, you know?
Yeah. Well, bless you for having to go through your own traumas and then help others through theirs. It's pretty amazing that you're able to do that.
It's how we help people, you know. I think you got to get to a point with your recovery, you know, that, you know, and some people don't, but, you know, I'm blessed that I'm able, like, I'm at a point in my recovery where I'm like, all right, like I'm good enough that I could go help people right now.
Yeah, good enough.
I'm good enough. I'm good enough where I can go and support people. And, you know, a lot of times it's just listening, you know, and just being there for them, and also giving them resources, and, you know, especially if they're here in Colorado, giving them the resources for counseling services, or, you know, check out the Rebels Project, or check out the I Love You Guys Foundation. You know, there's so many amazing, the On-Site Foundation is like an amazing, like, mental health, you know, resource for mass shooting survivors. And so there's so many amazing organizations that are willing to help, you know, when you're ready to start that, you know. Not everyone's ready to help right away. Yeah.
And that's another thing too. It's like some parents can be, you know, like your mom, who's like, just wants you to get over it. And whether that's because of something she's going through herself, and, you know, she can't stand watching it, or what, for whatever reason. I often wonder about the other side though, when parents like push their kids into therapy and stuff when the kid's not ready, like that. I wonder how damaging that can be too.
Yeah. I mean,
or if it is, I don't know.
I'm not on that side, thank goodness, you know, that I'm not, you know. I would hope that if that were to happen to one of my children, that I would know the tools, know the right way to navigate that. But I mean, who knows? I am a helicopter mom sometimes, dude. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I might be that mom that's like shoving therapy down their throat when they're like, I'm not ready. So
my wife and I too, we've gone through enough stuff, you know, individually and stuff that, you know, my son's 18 now and 16. And so, we've seen them have some issues, and it's like, I'm almost worried that I'm doing it too much. You know,
no, I mean, I bet you're a huge, you know, like, it's probably an honor for them to be able to like see that you're helping people, you know. I bet they look at you like, you know, they look up and they're like, okay, it's good that my dad talks about this stuff, you know. I mean, we hope that that's what they think, you know, or they're going to look back and say, you know, I lived in a house where it was okay to talk about tough times. It's okay to talk about really hard things, you know. and to work and to have the coping mechanisms and to have like the coping skills to, or to teach them, good coping skills.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say because they're both complete individuals too. So one thing works for one and maybe not the other. And then you find out later, it's like, oh shit, this guy's harder than I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah. My little guy is really physical. So like I got him into boxing, and he's dyslexic and just struggles sometimes. And so I got him into tackle football and boxing. So he's like hitting shit. That's that's how I got through a lot of my stuff is I box. And that is like, I like to hit shit and get my rage out. So that's that's what I do. Now my daughter screams and cries and, and has to talk a lot about her feelings. So it's, I love it, but it can be emotionally draining sometimes, but she can come to me and we talk a lot. And then my niece and nephew live with me and we're navigating like how they cope with things. Because my brother and sister-in-law are heroin addicts. So I got custody of their kids. And I didn't talk about this in the podcast, but I got custody of them 3 years ago.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
That's your brother, did you say?
My husband's brother and
I see.
My sister-in-law. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, good on you for that as well. I mean, that's oof.
Well, it's been a rough, my mom got sick and then, I found out my niece and nephew were in a motel and they needed someone to come get them. So my husband and I said, come live with us. Like we got this. Like, so it's been a crazy 3 years, and then I was producing the podcast, when all this shit was going down. And so I really had to dig deep and kind of figure out, my mental health too. Cause I was kind of a mess. I'm like, can I raise 4 kids? Am I going to be okay? Like,
yeah, definitely. So. Yeah. Well, you're talking about like helping others and being there for other victims and stuff. And it's funny, I've done that too, but at the same time, I also have to have boundaries with people because of my own anxiety and mental health issues. And it's like, I'm sorry, I cannot take on any more right now, or I won't respond to a text, or if I do respond to someone's text, it's like, call this number. Like, I'm sorry, like I'll help when I can, but when I can't, it is not, I'll be no good to anyone. I'm useless. So, it's amazing.
That's the best advice. That is the best advice is you said it right there, setting boundaries. Yeah. And I do a pretty good job at setting my boundaries and who I can take care of, who I can't. I really, I keep my circle small. I think that's like really important. I have a good network of people that can help me and that I know that can help me on like a drop of a hat, someone can come help, but you've got to set boundaries. So
unfortunately, and it's hard because you want to help everyone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a few young people. I've had a few young people reach out and it's like, sorry, can't. But I feel like then they feel like, they're being invalidated. I don't want to invalidate them or make them feel neglected even more by another adult. But I just.
Yeah, I've had a few cases where I've had to either delegate to another person or I just like physically, mentally could not help them. I was like, I can't do it. I don't have the capacity in my brain right now. So, I mean, it's just good to help. Like I'm down to help people, and I hope that this next venture I'm on, and I'm going to be able to help people.
What's the name of the new
Survivor's Path?
Survivor's Path.
Yeah.
What's your vision?
So we always talk about walking a survivor's path with them or their journey with them. So we're going to go speak at like conferences and we're going to facilitate mental health workshops. I would like to have a nonprofit on the side of it. where a certain proceeds from public speaking go to just a bank account where I pay for people's mental health services because it's not affordable at all. It's not fair. And when someone's ready to start that journey or start that path and you can't afford it, like, what are you supposed to do? You know? So I want to be able to like help, facilitate that and help, people be able to, pay for their meds, pay for if they want to do goat yoga or I don't know, like, acupuncture or something for their mental well-being. I want to be able to help, support that. And then there's a couple survivors that I'm going to work with that we're going to go around and speak and hopefully bring on more survivors and talk at, to law enforcement, to schools, to, really get in there and talk about, school safety and parenting as a survivor and just share our stories of survival.
And when you say survival, is it all survival of mass shootings or just in general mental health issues?
Mental health. I mean, just we all go through seasons of our lives, and we've got to figure out a way to help each other and a way to help our mental health physically. So I'm excited for this new venture. It's in like I just got my logo, like we're like,
that's the fun stuff. Yeah.
It's the fun stuff, but it's a little nerve wracking because I worked for the Rebels Project for 7 years and I hope to work with them too. And, because I think we've got to collaborate as, survivors. So that's kind of my plan.
Well, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited for you, and I wish you all the best in that.
Thank you.
You've got more energy than me, because every once in a while I'll be like, "Oh, I should start something else," and it's like, no.
No, you're doing good. You're doing good work. You're getting the message out. I think it's important for people to hear, what you're going through and how you get through it.
Well, I'm always fascinated with the guests I get, and it's amazing how many people are willing just to talk to me about this stuff. Because for years I was doing my own talk and walking around. I was driving around doing talks and stuff too. And it's like after a while, I don't know, maybe you'll find this or maybe you've found this. You get tired of telling your own story. It's like, okay, there's only so much more I can do, and so it's, you want to kind of create another platform for others. Yeah. Well,
maybe we could have you come out to Colorado and be on one of our platforms. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I got to get rolling with it. But once I get rolling with it, I'll definitely be in touch with you, and we'd love to have you come out and do a workshop with us or something.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, we could collaborate and stuff. I think it's really important for males in particular to talk about mental health. My husband's not so good at that.
or your dad, it sounds like.
No, he's not. They're not good at it, and I'm trying to raise two boys that, I want them to, communicate and ask, what they need and when they're struggling, and it's hard.
How are your in-laws doing? Are they still out and about?
Yep. They're living on the streets.
No
contact with them. My brother-in-law is probably not going to make it. Like, he's super sick and a diabetic, heroin user, fentanyl user. We've all tried our best to help them, but the past 3 years I've totally wiped my hands. The only thing that I can do is help take care of those kids.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I've gone through addiction. I wasn't heroin. It was, but whatever. I went through addiction. I went through, suicide attempts, going in and out of psych wards. And I tell people, I think my role was the easy role. It was my loved ones having to sit and wait and watch and worry. I think that's the harder role.
Oh, it's awful.
Because you feel helpless and useless, and
yeah. But then there's that anger piece of it too, and like sadness. And my husband's going through a lot of like sadness and anger. That he's like, why couldn't I help him? Why couldn't he try to help himself?
Yeah. That's a sickness.
Are we not enough? Like,
yeah,
it's hard, and not only that, like, I felt like I didn't know what it looked like for someone to be on drugs. So like when my brother-in-law was like starting to get into like heroin and stuff, I thought he was just drunk. So like he would ask me for money and I would always give him, I'd take him to the ATM with me. I'd give him a couple $100 and we'd have dinner and hang out, and he, like manipulated me all the time. And I'm like angry about that I was so naive.
Right.
To like that he used me, and then we had a huge falling out and like a big fight. And when I got the kids, and I haven't spoke to him since, and I know he's not going to live much longer. And that's going to be like another guilty, like grief thing that like we're going to have to go through. And it's going to be really freaking hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just really fucking hard. Like the addiction part, it's sad.
It is. I worked in addictions. Well, I worked in the treatment center that I went to for a couple of years afterwards. And I have a close friend who lost family. Like unfortunately, I know lots of dead people. And, like I said, as the family, I think it might be the harder role because it is so much more confusing. Like you said, it's like you want to help, but then you get manipulated. So then you're angry, but then you feel guilty for not being there. And it's just this round and around and around. And it's awful. I think what you're doing is awesome. You're taking care of their kids. You're doing the best you can.
Yeah. They're my kids now. I love them. Like they're, I love them like a son and daughter. And my heart breaks for them every day. That it's really tough. I think we're about to head into a season that is going to be really tough. And
will this be their first Christmas with you?
No, will be their fourth.
Oh, right. You said 3 years. Okay. Yeah. Right. Sorry.
Yeah. This will be our fourth Christmas. We just got our family pictures taken, and it was really, I have to laugh about, like, I always try to find like some funny, I have a goofy, probably not goofy right now, but I have a goofy sense of humor. But I remember the first year I got the kids, I didn't tell anybody at all. Like, other than like our immediate family. So and I'm really into Christmas. So I got Christmas family pictures, and James and Maddie, my niece and nephew, are in our family pictures now. And I get all these, I send out my family Christmas cards, and everyone's sending me like DMs. They're like, holy shit, Amy, like, you have 2 extra kids. Who are these kids? Like, everyone's like, who are these kids? Who are these kids? I'm just like, I just put 2 extra kids in my Christmas cards. I'm like, they're like, what the hell? Like, they're like, what's happening here? So it was kind of funny because I'm a pretty private person. So like, I keep to myself a lot with it when it comes to like family stuff. Cause what are you supposed to do? Post on Facebook? Like, so my brother and sister-in-law are crackheads. Like, what am I supposed to say?
Like, happy day, our family has grown by 2.
Yeah, I'm like, what am I? Yeah. So I just did that. So now everyone knows that that James and Maddie are ours, and they're a part of our family. And I couldn't be more blessed and happy. At first it was tough, but now that the parents aren't involved. It's just like we have our own family dynamics now. Like, we're our own family. But it was really complicated when I had what are they called? Like guardian ad litems involved, and like the state workers. And I mean, they really like made us feel like we were the victim, like we were the bad guys. So it was, because they give mom and dad so many chances to get their kids back. Here in, Colorado, like they give, you can like shoot up heroin and go see your kids.
Right.
It's not fair. And then we're the ones that get like, scrutinized if like, I don't know, like anything. Like it was a tough time. Yeah. But we're done with all that shit now.
Good. Yeah. I can only imagine how difficult that would be. So do you mind me asking the ages of the kids?
They're almost 17 and 14.
And the other two?
And then my daughter's 17 and my son is 10.
Oof.
I know. I got teenagers. It, man. Oh my God. They eat so much.
Oh my God. I know. My 16-year-old is as thin as a rail. And it's like, dude, where's this food going? In your feet? Because he's got massive feet. I'm like...
That's so funny. Yeah, we spend, I'm not even going to, it's embarrassing how much I spend a week on groceries. And they're like, there's nothing in the house. I'm like, dude, like, come on. Like, you guys eat and they fight over food. And like, I mean, they're like savages, they like fight over, Doritos and stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, I think we could start our own support group.
Right?
Parents
I need
with
that.
Hungry teens.
I know. I got hungry teens, man. And my fifth grader eats more than the teenagers.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, he's going to be a big boy.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and to like this video. Bunny Hugs and Mental Health is on Instagram at Bunny Hugs Podcast, and you can listen on Apple Podcast and Spotify. This is Todd Rennebaum saying, make your beds and take your meds. Bye.